Shiki might seem like an average, lifeless high schooler, but on a fateful day, when his only family is unplugged right before his eyes, a mysterious power awakens within him, transforming him into an uncontrollable demon. Turns out he's not alone, and many others possess this very power. With their help, he joins a school for demons, desperate to learn how to control his power so that he can take revenge on his enemies. The story begins with a desperate man named Samidare standing under rain that looks like blood. He begs his senpai to kill the child as well, warning that he'll regret it later if he doesn't. But his senpai doesn't believe he made any mistake by sparing the innocent child, so he walks away from the scene. The child belongs to a tribe of demons that existed long ago. These demons once terrorized mankind, making millions feel powerless. But one strong-willed man dared to fight back. He was Momotaro, a legendary swordsman who single-handedly slaughtered hundreds of Onis, igniting an endless war between him and the entire Oni tribe, the same war that caused this incident. 15 years pass after this event. The scene shifts to the second floor of a liquor store owned by the Ichinos family. That floor serves as the bedroom of a high schooler named Shiki Ichinos, who also happens to own a suspiciously large collection of guns. He's on a call with a friend, proudly telling him he just got expelled for getting into a fight. His friend, feeling guilty, blames himself since the fight happened because Shiki stepped in to save him. But Shiki tells him not to worry, saying it's nobody's fault, then hangs up. Shiki's father, Chiyoshi, storms in, furious after hearing the news, and smacks his useless son hard on the head. Shiki doesn't care in the slightest and tells his dad not to break a sweat over something so trivial. But to Chiyoshi, it's far from trivial. He tries to teach Shiki a lesson, but how can he when the kid has the reflexes of 1,000 monkeys? Chiyoshi calms down and asks why Shiki has turned his bedroom into a GTA gun store. Shiki tells him to shut up in reply and changes the topic, asking if it's true that the liquor store is going out of business, as he's heard Chiyoshi's customers are vanishing day by day. Chiyoshi's awkward silence confirms it, and trying to save his face, he mocks Shiki, calling him an expelled punk who's no better. Shiki is hurt this time, so he gets serious and tells his dad that no matter what happened, he'll become successful one day and never turn out to be a total loser like him. He doesn't stop there and twists the knife even deeper, saying the only thing that gives him peace is knowing they're not related by blood. That stings bad, so Shoshi leaves the room and heads back to the store downstairs. There, the telephone rings, and a customer wants some beer delivered to his house, so Shoshi heads out, but not before pausing for a moment to look at a childhood photo of Shiki, showing that he does love him. Meanwhile, Shiki is still pissed off and mutters that his life would have been way better if some rich guy had adopted him instead of this washed-up old man. To vent out his frustration, he grabs one of his guns and points it at the target on the wall, but just as he is about to pull the trigger, a loud explosion shakes the building. He looks out the window to see what happened when out of nowhere, a shadowy force grabs his legs and drags him down to the street. The man behind this attack is revealed to be Samidare, the same man we saw at the beginning of the story, who has some kind of dark power at his disposal. He approaches Shiki, asking for his name to confirm his identity. But before Shiki can answer, Tsuyoshi crashes into Samidare with his car and shouts for Shiki to get in. They speed away, and on the way, Tsuyoshi says their only chance of survival is to leave the country immediately. Shiki has no idea what's going on. He asks if Samidare is a loan shark or something, and even if he is, crashing into him seems a bit excessive. He's worried his dad is going to get arrested for attempted murder, or worse, actual murder. Tsuyoshi tells him to shut up for once, saying Samidare isn't dead, and Shiki asks how the hell he can be so sure. They have no time, but Tsuyoshi knows that if he doesn't explain what's going on, his idiot son won't shut up. So he starts explaining, dropping a heavy bomb casually that Shiki is a descendant of the demon Oni tribe, and Samidare is a descendant of Momotaro, which makes them born rivals. Shiki doesn't believe it, but there's no time for further explanation. Samidare catches up, pierces their car with his sword, and engulfs it with black mist. Losing vision, they have no other choice but to escape the vehicle, and just as they do so, the car explodes. At that moment, the black mist grabs Shiki and drags him to a nearby warehouse. There, Samidare reveals himself to Shiki and tells him not to take it because it is just his job to exterminate Oni-born pests like him. Chiyoshi comes in, explaining to Shiki the current situation he's in. He reminds Shiki of the legend of the 1,000-year war between Momotaro and the Oni, a story Shiki had heard from his dad many times during his childhood. Tsuyoshi states that after Momotaro passed away, The war continued as his descendants joined together and formed an organization whose sole purpose was to slay all demons. That organization is now known as the Momotaro Agency, and Samidare, being a descendant, is a member of that agency. Tsuyoshi himself was once a member, drawing his own Black Mist sword to defend against Samidare. According to Tsuyoshi, all descendants of Momotaro are blessed by an unknown force that allows them to summon this Black Mist, which they use to slay Onus. Samidare mockingly refers to Tsuyoshi as his senpai, which hurts Tsuyoshi's feeling, as Samidare has betrayed him. But technically, it is Tsuyoshi who has betrayed his own family by adopting a freaking Oni child. In the meantime, Shiki is having a hard time believing what's unfolding right before his eyes. His loser father is a descendant of Momotaro, who, for some reason, thought it was a great idea to adopt his natural enemy. Samidare calls out Tsuyoshi for that exact reason, telling him that he will be exterminated alongside Shiki for betraying his own kind. But Tsuyoshi doesn't care and charges at Samidare, engaging in a battle whose outcome will decide who is right. Samidare, being much younger, gains the upper hand, dodging Tsuyoshi's attack with swift speed before landing 2 direct strikes on him. As Tsuyoshi falls to the ground, bleeding profusely, Shiki screams, begging Samidare to stop. Samidare looks at Shiki and tells him to stay quiet until it's his turn to die. Tsuyoshi, with his last bit of strength, grabs Samidare's foot, which frustrates Samidare even more, as he's never understood why this man did so much to protect a freaking Oni. Tsuyoshi, in reply, states that a father doesn't need any reason to protect his son. He begs Samidare to spare Shiki's life, promising that Shiki has never hurt anyone in his life and never will. As Tsushi's words begin to shake Samidare's resolve, he draws his sword with the intent to shut his senpai up permanently. Shiki's eyes split open. He wonders to himself why he is hung there helpless when his father is dying. He becomes angry. His anger gets uncontrollable, and his eyes start getting red and closing. He feels he must do something, and he must do it right now. He suddenly starts feeling his body change suspiciously. He gets uncontrollable, and his body drips blood. The entire black rope that is used to tie him gets bloody and breaks out. Samidare notices that something is moving behind him, and by the time he turns to the back to see, he sees that Shiki has broken free. He looks around for the boy and finds him on the roof, covered in blood. Shiki jumps to fight him, and he dodges. He is used to fighting Onus, so seeing Shiki isn't shocking to him. He sees that Shiki has finally awoken as an Oni, and Onus fight by manipulating blood. However, that isn't the most fearful thing about Onus, and that isn't the reason they kill Onus. The reason they kill Onus is because they have uncontrollable emotions, and they are a loss to humanity. He sets out to fight Shiki, who has lost control of himself. When he tries to make the first attempt at Shiki, Shiki dodges him. Shiki's body manipulates several weapons and shoots Samidare with them. Samidare dodges all of the bullets, but the missile that Shiki throws at him is so strong that he couldn't even find his way. I didn't expect that Shiki would be this strong. He continues fighting without even knowing what he is doing. He finally gets a hold of Samidare and hits him. He puts his hands on his head and attacks him. The entire building gets destroyed by the weight of his power. After an almost done fight, he takes a step back. Shockingly, Samidare doesn't die either. His head just has a black sign. He stands up with a renewed hope of killing Shiki and getting the world rid of Onus. As he walks towards Shiki, Shiki steps back and starts screaming. He gets a hold of his body again and is shocked that he is the one doing all of that. He screams and wonders in confusion. Shiki looks at his hand and wonders if he is the one. His hands are bigger, and there is blood all over him. There are several questions in his mind that beg for answers, but he doesn't even have answers to them. Samidare isn't shocked that he feels that way. The state of confusion and loss of memory is something that is very common with Onus when they change. He doesn't pity Shiki's condition. He just wants to eradicate him. When is the best time to attack Shiki if not now that he is in a state of confusion and disarray? So Samidare brings out his sword again and sets out to attack Shiki. He stabs someone, and at that moment, even Shiki assumes he is dead. Fortunately for Shiki, Tsuyoshi still has enough strength to defend him, so he had run there and taken the sword for his dear son. Samidare is angry. He asks Tsuyoshi if he still feels the need to defend the boy after he saw how deadly the boy had become when he awoke. I guess a father's love can never be replaced. With his breath shaking, he remembers when Shiki was a child and how Shiki called him Dad. He hears Shiki calling him Dad again, and he smiles to himself. Samidare wonders how far he will go to protect the blood of an Oni and asks questions in his heart as to how important he is. Tsuyoshi smiles to himself as he concludes that it is at least nice for him to be happy for a while. The collapsed building calls for speculations and talks around the city. Everyone starts gathering around to know what is happening, and they wonder if it is either a gas eruption or otherwise. Samidare doesn't want to call attention to himself, so he disappears. This leaves Tsuyoshi and Shiki enough time to have their final reunion. Shiki holds his father, hoping that his father survives, while Tsuyoshi is just apologetic about the fact that he didn't tell Shiki about his birth. He admits that he should have told Shiki about his blood, but he didn't have a good way to tell his son that he will be chased by Momotaro all the days of his life, and he has to fight. However, he leaves Shiki with advice as to how he can survive. He reminds Shiki that he will be alone from that day, and begs him to get stronger so he can escape from both the Momotaro and the Onis. With this, he gives up the ghost. Shiki cannot believe that his entire life had ended in front of him. Just a few minutes ago, he was still teasing his father, and everything suddenly changed. He screams that he still has a lot of things to do with Tsuyoshi. He wants to apologize to him for saying he isn't his blood, and he has a lot to say. When Tsuyoshi doesn't respond, he cries. Before he can grieve well, a man sneaks behind him and slaps his neck. He faints immediately as the man tells him that he is a fool for letting someone sneak in on him. Meanwhile, at Momotaro's headquarters, the elders talk about how Samidare had gone to fight without their consent or prior notice, and they wonder if the Momotaro has gotten weaker. They insist that they cannot let Onis remain in the midst of humans, and they have to ensure they eradicate them all without allowing humans to get suspicious of them. Wait, who are these ones that are tied up here? Well, watch out. The boy that had hit Shiki earlier, Naito, calls his principal. His principal congratulates him for getting one of them into the school, and you can see his principal is so excited about it, even if he also claims not to be excited. It seems like he is. His principal asks about the others he has gotten, and he talks about Shiki, claiming that he doesn't know if Shiki will be worth it. Will Shiki be worth it eventually? Nueno is a Rizless schoolteacher with an unusual secret. With the power of a demon sealed in his left hand, he is not just some weak loser. He is Hell's messenger of justice on a mission to exorcise every evil spirit that crosses his path. It all begins when several students across a small town in Japan get hurt in accidents caused by evil spirits. A man named Nueno investigates the entire town and finds out that it has turned into a special spiritual magnetic field after the yin and yang energies mysteriously broke down. That's why people have been seeing spirits at night. Nueno suspects that if things are allowed to continue, the town will enter the Twilight Zone, a calamitous dimension close to the spiritual world. The principal of the town's school learns about the severity of the situation from Nueno and requests him to join the school as a teacher. Since Nueno has psychic powers, the principal believes he will be able to take good care of the children and protect them from evil spirits. Soon after, Nueno joins, and it's almost time for his first class. In front of the 5th grade's classroom, a boy named Katsuya is seen chatting with his friends on his smartphone. Katsuya's friend Makoto tries to warn him, telling him to hide his phone before anyone sees it. Otherwise, the teacher is going to get mad. Miki, who's also using her phone, overhears Makoto being unnecessarily wary and tells him not to worry since the teacher hasn't even arrived yet. Katsuya sees Hiroshi on the other side of the classroom, looking out the window, and calls out to him, but Hiroshi doesn't respond. Miki reveals that Katsuya and Hiroshi are mad at each other. She asks Katsuya to make up with Hiroshi. Katsuya doesn't want to, since he believes that whatever happened wasn't his fault. Kyoko enters the scene and asks Hiroshi what's wrong with him. She bugs him playfully, asking if he's trying to act all serious just to look cool in front of his new classmates. But Hiroshi doesn't reply and looks the other way, triggering Kyoko, who advises him to act nicely now that they're in the same class again this year. Katsuya notices that Kyoko is about to burst into rage, so he intervenes to handle the situation, changing the topic by asking if she knows what kind of person their new homeroom teacher is. Miki claims she saw the homeroom teacher during the opening ceremony, and Kyoko adds that she's already acquainted with him because he used to live in her neighborhood. This piques Miki's interest, and she now wants to know if this good-looking guy is also a nice person. Kyoko says their homeroom teacher is indeed a nice person, and also claims that he has a mysterious superpower. She's obviously referring to Nueno, but nobody in class believes her, and they call her a liar. She tries to defend her claim and almost reveals that Nueno can exorcise spirits, which catches Hiroshi's attention. Regardless, it doesn't matter whether anyone believes her or not, because shortly after, something unusual begins to happen. The lights in the hallway turn off as Nueno walks through the area, chanting the weirdest mantra. He then enters the classroom with his psychic powers still activated, and it seems he was exorcising the area to protect the school from spirits. However, things take a comedic turn when Nueno's phone playlist changes, revealing that he wasn't chanting a mantra at all, but was playing a song. The glowing spirit balls surrounding him are also fake, making him look like a total loser. Regardless, Nueno starts the class and introduces himself to the students. Miki raises her hand and asks if he really has a special power. Nueno isn't one to hide his powers, so he takes all the students to the stairway, where some portraits are hanging on the wall, to show them how much of a true psychic he is. Apparently, Nueno has heard reports of one particular picture being able to move its eyes at night, and he suspects there's a spirit haunting the portrait. Making preparations, Nueno begins the goofiest exorcism I've ever seen, throwing handfuls of salt at the portraits. Miki figures this dude has no power at all, and Kyoko also begins to doubt herself. A female teacher named Ritsuko arrives, wondering why there's such a large gathering. She finds Nueno spraying salt everywhere. Upon seeing Ritsuko, Nueno changes his target, claiming that she has a lot of spirits haunting her. This scares Ritsuko, and she slaps Nueno, calling him terrible for pulling such a prank on her. At this point, none of the students take him seriously and start making fun of him. Meanwhile, Hiroshi picks up an exorcism book that had fallen out of Nueno's hand when Ritsuko slapped him, triggering a traumatic memory where Hiroshi was taken captive by an exorcist, which ended with a man, probably his father, getting hurt. Hiroshi yells at Nueno, scolding him for making fun of them with these exorcism pranks, just because he thinks they're kids who don't know any better. Kyoko tries to defend Nueno, but Nueno speaks for himself, telling Hiroshi that it's fine if he doesn't believe him. Not knowing what's going on in Hiroshi's mind, Nueno tries to pat him on the head, a gesture that mirrors the traumatic experience Hiroshi had with the exorcist. Hiroshi reacts furiously and goes for a punch. Nueno blocks it easily and starts worrying about the kid, realizing that something else is troubling him. Later in the afternoon, the male students are getting ready for soccer practice, and meanwhile, Nueno meets with the principal near the haunted portrait. The principal notices something is bothering Nueno, and Nueno explains that he's having a hard time building trust with the students. He knows it will take time and wants to prioritize that before focusing on the exorcism. In any case, the principal once again asks Nueno to do all he can to protect the students, and Nueno vows to do everything in his power to do so. Back at the soccer field, Hiroshi finds the other students acting weirdly toward him, possibly a hallucination, and in a defensive reaction, he punches one of them in the face. Later, Hiroshi visits the hospital where his dad, seen earlier in the flashback, is being treated. Hiroshi apologizes to his father for his head injury, implying that he caused it, but his father tells him not to worry and changes the topic, asking about his soccer practice. Hiroshi lies and says it went well. His father hugs him, giving him strength to endure this difficult time. After the visit, Hiroshi walks home. On the other side of the road, Kyoko and Miki spot him. Kyoko is about to call out, but Miki suggests she doesn't, believing that Hiroshi is in a bad mood after being kicked off the soccer team for punching another student. But that just makes Kyoko want to console Hiroshi even more. But as she approaches him, she sees a glimpse of two demon eyes beside Hiroshi's head staring at her. This scares her to the core, and she goes to tell Nueno about the incident. Nueno assures Kyoko that he'll handle it, and soon after, he sneaks up behind Hiroshi in the restroom. He begins the exorcism ritual and starts by asking Hiroshi if he's been fuming with rage these past couple of days. Promising to listen to all of Hiroshi's worries, Nueno brings forward a crystal ball. Hiroshi, who's already tired of this BS, throws the crystal ball out of Nueno's hand, hitting the poor guy in the head, but Hiroshi shows no remorse, strictly telling Nueno to never come near him again. Later in the classroom, Nueno's task for the day as the teacher is to teach all of the students how to use their tablets. He picks Hiroshi as the volunteer, but just as Hiroshi glares at him, he steps back. To divert his attention, Hiroshi starts scrolling through his tablet when he begins to hallucinate again, and this time, he catches a glimpse of his own eye turning into dozens of demon eyes. Kyoko playfully asks Hiroshi if he doesn't know how to use a tab, and BRO completely lashes out, shoving Kyoko away. She hits her head against the wall and starts bleeding. Hiroshi becomes scared, revealing that this is the second time he's done this, implying the first time he hurt someone in the head was his father. Both Nueno and Hiroshi rush to the hospital where Kyoko gets treated, and thankfully, nothing serious happened. After a few stitches, she's back on her feet and meets with Hiroshi, holding no grudges against him. Hiroshi still apologizes to her when Nueno intervenes, apologizing to Hiroshi and taking all the blame for what happened. Nueno understands the gravity of the situation and takes Hiroshi somewhere else with him. In the background, we see that Dr. Tamamo, the one treating Hiroshi's father, is secretly watching them from the hospital. Nueno brings Hiroshi to a local park where they find a lady struggling to calm her crying newborn baby. Nueno helps her, and using his psychic powers, he exorcises the baby and pulls a spirit worm out of him, bringing the baby relief. He then returns to Hiroshi and shows him the spirit worm, known as the tantrum worm. By the way, Kyoko also sees this, as she has been spying on the two from a distance. So anyway, if the worm possesses someone, they become cranky, and if the spirit is left untouched for too long, it can turn into a monster, locally known as the 99-legged bug yokai. Nueno believes that this same type of yokai has possessed Hiroshi, which is why he's been acting so aggressively. The yokai inside Hiroshi feels so threatened that it tries to take full control of his body. After absorbing the spirit worm, Hiroshi is manipulated by the yokai, who then punches Nueno, literally sending him crashing into a distant tree. Hiroshi runs away, still traumatized by the last time he was exorcised. He hides under a bridge and unleashes all his rage. Kyoko, the obvious idiot, follows him there all by herself and finds him under complete control of the yokai. Hiroshi, annoyed by Kyoko's presence, uses the yokai's powers and literally turns into Kaneki from Tokyo Ghoul. He doesn't let her escape and begins choking the life out of her using the yokai's powers. That's when suddenly a large sheet of paper surrounds him and starts exorcising the yokai that has possessed him. As Kyoko is released, Nueno reveals that this is his true psychic power, and he uses it to restrict the yokai from regaining control. First, he calms Hiroshi by hugging him, then calls out to the demon sealed in his left hand to use its strength to exterminate the yokai. Promising Hiroshi that he won't get hurt, Nueno punches him using his demon hand, causing the yokai to be literally yeeted out of his body. As the yokai reveals its true, nasty, bug-looking form, Nueno goes to apprehend it. The yokai tries once again to enter Hiroshi, but Nueno, thinking quickly, shoves Hiroshi out of the way and gets eaten himself, but that only helps him shred the monster from the inside, cutting it into pieces in an instant with his demon hand. As the monster's corpse withers away, the day is saved, and Nueno checks on both of his students. Hiroshi apologizes to Nueno for causing trouble, but Nueno considers it his duty as their teacher. He pats Hiroshi on the head, calling him one of his most precious students, and unintentionally scares him, since he's still using his transformed demon hand. Dr. Tamamo from earlier dashes toward them at incredible speed and attacks Nueno with his weapon out of nowhere. While Nueno is left unconscious by the attack, Tamamo takes the opportunity and starts choking Hiroshi by the neck, fully intending to kill him. He holds Hiroshi, excited for what the night will bring. He strangles him and happily tells him that it looks like it will be a good night. Hiroshi remains shocked. He had assumed that Tamano was just a doctor and doesn't understand why a doctor would be against him. Kyoko struggles to stand up again to save her friend. She tells Tamano to release her friend, but he turns to look at her and wonders who she is. He immediately assumes that she is Hiroshi's friend and states that they may be friends, but he has a deal with Hiroshi and doesn't want any intervention. Nueno also struggles to stand up from where he was kicked to. Before he can gather himself back, Kyoko flies toward him. Not just a normal fall, but a systematic one because of how forcefully Tamano kicked her away. Fortunately for her, Nueno sees her flying from afar and sets himself to catch her. She falls on his body, and he holds her. She explains to him that a strange man is attacking Hiroshi and that Hiroshi is in danger. Nueno knows about the strange occurrences, so he immediately sets out for the place. Before they arrive, Tamano, who doesn't want anyone to interrupt his good night, teleports both himself and Hiroshi to another place. By the time they get there, they meet an empty area. Nueno figures out that Tamano has teleported. He uses his globe to check around and detects where Tamano's otherworldly aura is hiding. He reveals the demon that is captured in his hand and tells Kyoko not to worry. He explains that he is also powerful because he has a demon sealed in his hand, the demon he exorcised when he was in school, and informs her that he knows their location. He asks her to return home while he goes to save Hiroshi. She doesn't think it is right to leave him. She also wants to save her friend, so she insists they go together. However, Nueno, thinking about her safety, tells her that the aura he got from Tamano is very strong and she cannot fight him. He says he can't protect two people at once, so it's best she leaves. She realizes he is right and steps back. Meanwhile, Tamano stops at the top of a building. He is glad that his show isn't disturbed and immediately throws Hiroshi down the cliff. Hiroshi screams as he systematically falls. When Tamano sees that Hiroshi isn't trying to help himself, he jumps down and catches him. They land in a crowd below and the people are shocked at what they see. He walks away carrying Hiroshi in his hand. He concludes that since Hiroshi didn't resist when he was falling, maybe Hiroshi has been completely purified. He walks away, but Nueno arrives to fight him. Nueno uses his spirit bind, which is a paper magic, on Tamano, but Tamano burns it off. He invokes an illusion jutsu, and Nueno starts seeing several versions of him, not knowing which one to fight. Tamano disappears. Later, the crowd sees Hiroshi on the ground, and they are shocked, wondering if he is still alive. Nueno calls out for him. Suddenly, Nueno realizes he is seeing wrongly. The animal that attacked him earlier suddenly appears as a pet. The traffic light changes color, and he can see that there is no underground area at all. He realizes that an illusion jutsu has been used against him, and that every living thing around him looks different. He knows he must break out of the illusion if he wants to find them. He looks at his globe to figure out the issue. Tamano holds Hiroshi and walks away, saying he must finalize his perfect plan before the night ends. Hiroshi keeps screaming Nueno's name, but Tamano uses magic on him to silence him. Nueno tries to find Hiroshi using his globe, but the illusions keep affecting him. He walks and figures he could use the map to find their location, but in that dire moment, the map refuses to work. Suddenly, someone stands beside him and grabs his phone. It's Kyoko. He screams at her, asking why she is still there when he told her to go home. She insists that she is here now and can help him, so he shouldn't worry about her. She finds where he is looking for on the map and gives it to him. She asks him if he knows where they are, and although he claims he isn't sure, he says he has an idea. It will be in one of the 7 North Stars. In China, there are 7 North Stars: the Tonro Star, Komen Star, Rokuzan Star, Mangoku Star, Renjo Star, Mujoku Star, and Hagun Star. In each of those stars, Tamano has left his otherworldly aura. Nueno believes Tamano is trying to perform a ritual, so he is leaving signs at each star. While Nueno isn't certain, he has reasons to believe the ritual will end at the last star if Tamano is following the order, so Hiroshi will be there. Kyoko worries that Hiroshi will be used as a sacrifice. She tells Nueno that the location of the last star, Hagun, is an amusement park that is currently under construction, so Nueno proceeds there. Just as Kyoko suspected, Tamano is in the park. He is excited that he can finish his perfect plan and decides to stall a little before completion. He sees Nueno running on the ground and is disappointed that Nueno is still alive and after him. He decides to finish Nueno off immediately, especially since he still has time. When Nueno arrives, he sees Hiroshi on a blade in the park. He runs to the blade, screaming for Hiroshi to wait for him. However, as he tries to drag Hiroshi down, the blade cuts him and his head falls off. Nueno is stunned and taken aback. As he looks on in shock, Hiroshi's body disappears and the blood cleans away. He realizes he is still under an illusion. He looks around to confirm, but before he can see Tamano, Tamano stabs him from behind. He falls on Tamano's leg and still tries to beg him to release Hiroshi. Tamano steps on his head to kill him, and Hiroshi calls out his name. Now that he assumes he is done with the intruder, Tamano carries Hiroshi to the top of the park. He reveals all his intentions. He needs to perform humanification, and to do that, he needs a human skull. Humanification is a process where a Yuko like him can become human and blend in with humans. Since that is his mission, and he needs a skull, he decided to pretend to be a doctor so he could get the skull he needed. However, after seeing several dead bodies, he realized that none of their skulls could do what he wanted, and he became angry. One day, while wandering around the city, fate smiled on him. Hiroshi ran toward him and bumped into him. When he saw Hiroshi, he knew immediately that this was exactly what he was looking for. He walked toward Hiroshi and held his hands to comfort him for falling. Since then, he has watched over Hiroshi several times to ensure he is fine. During the humanification process, he needs a skull without anger, because if the skull has anger, it will ruin the ritual, and he would also die. So he put his otherworldly aura inside Hiroshi and watched to ensure that Hiroshi's anger was completely purified. When he was sure Hiroshi was purified, he planned his ritual again. He admits that humans are weak, and he is no different from humans if he doesn't complete his ritual. He takes his weapon and puts it right inside his own skull. Hiroshi is terrified. He has never seen a more horrifying situation. Tamano removes his skull and throws it away, then changes from a human body into a demon body and screams loudly as he calls the names of all the stars. After calling all the names, he invokes the signs he left in each star, and immediately the stars shine bright lights to the ground. By the time he is done with the last star, Hagan, all the stars shine brightly to the ground, and everyone who sees it thinks it looks beautiful. If only they knew it was a sacrifice. Kyoko, who is also making her way to the park, sees the light, but she knows something is happening. Tamano takes the weapon to get Hiroshi's skull, but before he strikes him, Nueno screams Hiroshi's name. Tamano is angry that Nueno is still alive, and before he can do anything, Hiroshi runs to Nueno. He takes a ball and throws it at Nueno. As Hiroshi runs, a truck in the park drives toward them. Hiroshi reaches Nueno and hugs him. The stone Tamano throws hits Nueno in the back, but Nueno doesn't react as if it hurts. Tamano is furious, performing humanification, and the ritual is the only way he can become human, and he doesn't understand why a strange intruder is stopping him from getting what he wants. He remains determined to get it done and runs to fight Nueno. He throws 3 stones into the sky, and they become illusions of his wolf form. All the wolves charge at Nueno. Nueno reassures Hiroshi that he won't let anything happen to him and tells him to stay back while he goes to fight. He calls upon the demon in his hand, and the demon takes over his body. He finds it very difficult to fight because he can barely tell which wolf is Tamano's real self. He keeps wondering if he is still under illusions, which allows Tamano to take advantage of him. He keeps fighting without giving up. At one point, even Tamano is shocked that Nueno is so protective of Hiroshi and asks why he is going so far when he isn't even the boy's father. Tamano throws him into a building and almost kills him. Hiroshi watches the fight and feels scared that Nueno may die because of him. He decides to take action and find a solution. He goes to a truck behind him to drive it, but finds it difficult to open the door. As he struggles with it, Kyoko comes to him. He is shocked that she is there, but she tells him she is there to help. She holds a big metal object and uses it to break the truck window so they can both drive it toward the fight. Tamano is almost done with Nueno. Morning is gradually approaching, and he needs to finish immediately and complete his ritual. He changes illusions, and all his illusions attack Nueno at once. Nueno uses all his remaining strength to fight. He screams that he won't allow anything to harm his students. Luckily, the students drive there, and the truck knocks away all the illusions, leaving just Tamano. This gives Nueno the chance to hit Tamano in the chest. Tamano weakens. He asks who Nueno is and disappears into the sky, but not without telling Nueno they will meet again. All the lights that had formed from the stars he has called together start to disappear. Children peep through their windows to look at them, and one of them even make her wishes to it, thinking it is a shooting star. The students come out of the truck to meet their teacher, and he appreciates them for saving him. Indeed, what a groundbreaking fight! He couldn't have expected that his students would be his saving grace. They ask him what Tamano is, and he tells them they are Yokos. They live among humans. Hiroshi says he doesn't believe they are real, but Kyoko tells him that at least Nueno is real. Nueno explains that they are real and can't be avoided, so they must learn how to live with them. They return to school happily after a very long night, leaving Hiroshi with just one thought, that his homeroom teacher is the best. Well, he really is the best.